soon after I got diagnosed with, they now call it PMOS, but it's formerly known as polycystic ovarian syndrome, as well as endometriosis. In between the twins, I had a couple miscarriages, so that was a little bit difficult to get through. I know it's very common, but we didn't anticipate getting pregnant so quickly. First 5 years, going to the gym was not a priority. I had twins and a boy, so it was not something that I would. Could I make time for it? Maybe in the middle of the night.
What's your motto?
No excuses, play like a champion.
Welcome back to the Longevity Lab at Peak City Gym, Jessica. You've been here for a little over 6 months, correct? Yeah. All right. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into your story. It's a unique one, and it's kind of something that I feel like would resonate well with a lot of our members, right? Okay. So you started off as a high school athlete, being very physically active, and then as you kind of grew up and gained age, fitness kind of fell out of favor for you, right?
Yeah, I think I was pretty hardcore at a young age. I started with gymnastics at 4. So I did that up until high school when I got into more of competitive cheerleading. And I did that throughout high school. And then once I graduated, I went into the military. So I was still athletic, but didn't necessarily continue on with that high level. And it kind of tapered off from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like most people would look at you and kind of assume this has always been your lifestyle, which it hasn't.
No.
So that's why I think this conversation is really, really good for a lot of people. And before we really get into things, I want to thank you. I know this can be very vulnerable and very uncomfortable for you. So thank you for taking the time to come on here and share your story. I think it will be helpful for a lot of people. Real quick, where did you grow up and where did you kind of come from within the country?
Okay. I'm from a little bit of all over. Grew up near Chicago.
Okay.
About an hour outside of the city is where I was born. Then moved to central Indiana for a few years. Ohio is where I ended up graduating high school and spent a big chunk of my time. And then after I ended up getting married, we moved to Nebraska. And then we've been in North Carolina now for about 8 years. So all around.
Oh, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Cornhuskers.
Yes.
Do you have any siblings, brothers, sisters?
I have 2 stepbrothers or half brothers, 1 regular brother, and 3 stepsisters. So a big blended family.
That is a very big family.
Yes. I've got younger brothers who are about 16 years younger than me. So when I was in high school, I had babies at home. It was very interesting, but it was fun.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned a little bit growing up, you were into gymnastics and then competitive cheer. Were you into any other things before high school or in high school outside of?
In middle school, I ran cross country and track as well. And then I also did a little bit of soccer early on. But the majority of my middle school and high school was the competitive cheerleading as well as gymnastics. So I was doing that most of that time.
Yeah. After that, you went into the Air Force, correct?
Yep.
What led to that decision versus going, I guess, a more traditional route of college or university?
Well, I did go the Air Force route because they paid for school.
Okay.
So all of my friends were getting scholarships and or having assistance from family. I didn't have that luxury. So I thought that the Air Force would be the best way, or the military would be the best way to pay for those things. And that's the route that I chose.
Yeah. So when you went into the Air Force, what was your basic training and intro into that? Because it's very different than competitive cheer.
Yeah. It's a very different structure. And also a lot of people think that even if I ended up going in the Air National Guard, but they think that the Guard it's all the same basic training, whether you go, in the Guard
okay.
or in active duty. You go to the same basic training. So I were 6.5 weeks. I stayed in San Antonio, Texas, and did the training there. But I also did it during the hottest time of the year in August. So that kind of limited our access to training outside. And we did a lot of indoor things instead of doing the actual outside training, which contributed to some weight gain.
Did you have a lot of women or people like you when you were going through basic training?
There was not a lot of women. I mean, my flight was consisting of mostly women, but the women didn't make up, a majority of the overall people who were in the military with me. But it was definitely not common to see.
Gotcha.
Also, there was just a very wide age range too. So my college roommate or my roommate from the military was 10 years older than me, which was a big gap in age.
Wow. Okay.
So
when did you join the Air Force? Like 18?
I had just turned 19 when I actually went into basic training. So, but my roommate was 29. And so it was actually really nice to have somebody who was a little bit older and more experienced and could help me out there.
I'm sure that helped a lot trying to like navigate that.
Absolutely.
Okay. What were some of the biggest obstacles you had when joining the Air Force and like being in a small group where women were not the majority?
It was really hard because there was no like communication with anything on the outside world. One of the biggest challenges was I went into the military during Hurricane Katrina. So I didn't even know that it hit. They actually pulled us all aside.
And being in San Antonio, wow.
And they said, well, they needed blood. So they ended up pulling everybody aside and everybody who could donate blood because they were bringing people, to the Superdome in San Antonio from New Orleans. So that was a really crazy experience getting pulled out and saying, oh, there's this huge national disaster that just has happened.
Yeah.
So that was kind of difficult to like navigate, not being able to, talk to anybody. I did find a lot of support with other women, who I roomed with or, was able to connect with who, were going through the same experiences. So, yeah.
That's a very big experience.
Yeah.
Basic training, a complete shift of your lifestyle, and then also having a national disaster.
Yeah.
All at the same time. Wow.
Yeah. I think during those 6.5 weeks, I spoke to a family member 2 times for maybe 5 minutes total.
Wow.
Yeah. We were able to get letters and stuff like that, but communication on the outside was just not something that was relevant.
Were you like really close with your family at that time?
I think I was it was the first time that I had been away for an extended amount of time. And I am the only girl. I have 3 brothers, even though I have stepsisters. I never lived with them. So I was kind of the only girl, and I was definitely sensitive, more sensitive than most. I think I cried every day there. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That's really tough. What was the biggest lesson that you learned when you joined the Air Force and like went through your basic training and all of that?
I think just perseverance, just being able to get through it, putting myself through those challenges, and then just, it was definitely exhausting and physically demanding, but I think more than anything, it was mentally hard to go through. So that was challenging, and that was probably the thing that I learned the most, that if I could make it through that, I can make it through almost anything.
Okay. How long were you in the Air Guard for?
6 years.
6 years? Okay. Wow. Were you also going to school while you were there, or did you do school after you got out?
I did school and I worked.
And
I did the Air National Guard. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
All the things.
All the things all at once. And then after that, you moved back home after the 6 years. Like what?
Actually, once I graduated basic training, I started going to college, and I moved out of my house and just got an apartment and started, going to school in Columbus, Ohio at Ohio State. And my family who lived there packed up and moved across the country. So I was in Ohio by myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then did you meet your husband while you were at Ohio State?
Yes,
Yeah.
we met through mutual friends at a bar. I was bartending while I was going through school, so
Okay.
we met through some mutual friends,
Mhm.
and that's how. Yeah.
And you were still part of the Air National Guard at that
Yes.
time too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. New relationship, Air National Guard,
Hmm.
going to college and working as a bartender.
Yes.
You just like all of the things on your plate.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. What were some of the big challenges that you faced in that time period of like transitioning and now you're married to your husband, obviously. So you did develop that relationship. Did you have any big challenges within that? How was your fitness and health at that time? Because there's a lot of moving parts there.
Yeah, I definitely don't think I prioritized my fitness and my
Hmm.
health as much as I should have. That's really where I fell off. Um, I was so busy with concentrating on school and work. We did have to keep up an annual fitness test with the military.
Yeah.
It's very lax. I mean, you have to run a mile and a half, but you can still pass in 15, 16 minutes by
Yeah.
running that mile and a half.
Yeah.
So it was not necessarily hard to accomplish completing that each year, especially because I was in my 20s. So
Yeah.
when you're that young and you can eat whatever you want,
Hmm.
it's still easy to do those things. So
Okay. What happened after you got out of the Air Force and like finished?
well, we and I got out of the Air Force, moved to Nebraska, and got married all within 6 months of
Okay.
each other.
Yeah.
So another, like I said, go big or go home. I like to do everything at once.
Fully commit.
Yes. So and then after I got married, we ended up we knew we wanted to have kids from, the get-go because
Yeah.
we'd been together for about 5 years before getting
Mhm.
married. And so we decided we wanted to start that journey.
Okay. And how did that journey go?
Not at the beginning, it was just a little bit more difficult, I
Mm.
think, than we anticipated.
Yeah.
I think that we thought that everything was gonna, we're generally healthy people and
Mm.
everything was gonna be easy, but that was not the case.
Yeah.
And soon after I got diagnosed with, they now call it PMOS,
PMOS. Okay.
but it's formerly known as polycystic ovarian syndrome, as well as endometriosis.
Okay.
So because of that, I had to go through surgery
Mm.
and do some fertility treatments so
Mm.
that we were able to conceive. So
Okay.
it was a rough time during those years.
That
for
is
sure.
a long journey. How did that play out with you and your husband and then also just like your personal health?
It was a lot. We also, with his job is very demanding. So we have to plan around when we have kids too. So we not
Yeah.
only had a small window, but it's like if you don't have the child within these windows, then you're going to have to wait till next year.
Yeah.
And that was difficult. He also had to give me shots twice a week,
Oh, wow.
which was new. So my biggest fear being needles was something I had to get over.
Yeah.
The risk versus reward was definitely worth it. So
Mhm.
that was something that we had to do throughout the entire pregnancy with my son. We fortunately ended up getting pregnant pretty quickly after we went through the fertility treatments.
Mm.
But like I said, through the whole pregnancy, he had to give me injections and
Yeah.
was monitored. And but that went fairly well. So
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. And then after your son, you have twins, right? How did those?
Yes. In between the twins, I had a couple miscarriages,
Okay.
so that was a little bit difficult to get through. I know it's
Mm.
very common,
Yeah.
but we didn't anticipate getting pregnant so quickly. We got pregnant the second time, not using fertility medication, and
Oh, okay.
my body doesn't like that. So
Yeah.
like I said, we lost 2 pregnancies in between, and then about 3 years later, we decided we wanted to
Mhm.
try again for the twins, and then we went ahead and did the treatments, and
Yeah.
so that worked out well. But I ended up being high risk with them, so I was
Okay.
on bed rest, and I
Yeah.
was not really allowed to do much of anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you looking back at it? I know we've talked a little bit because my fiance is currently pregnant. What would you have done differently where you are at now, looking back at it when you were pregnant the first couple times.
I wish I would have stayed active throughout the
Yeah.
entire pregnancy. I
Mhm.
felt like I made it as an excuse to
Yeah.
not do anything or to eat whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And that's really not the best way
Yeah.
to go about things.
Okay. Were you active prior to being pregnant? Like as you were going through these treatments, you said you were relatively healthy, but was that like fitness healthy or just like young and kind of healthy that way?
I think it was just being young and having
Gotcha.
still a decent metabolism
Yeah.
because I was in my 20s.
Mhm.
I did have my kids throughout my 20s. I was 26 and then 29 when I had my kids. So that's still, I think it's still fairly easy. You know, your body is
Yeah.
still, you
Yeah.
know, even just going out and going on walks. I wasn't fairly active in the gym, but
Mhm.
um, just my lifestyle, working full time. And then I had
Yeah.
a toddler before I had the twins. So
Mhm.
having to take care of him
Yeah.
definitely kept me on my toes.
Kept you
So,
moving.
yeah.
Okay. Um, did you know that you'd always wanted kids? Like, was that a conversation when you first met your husband?
It definitely was from
Yeah.
the get go, although he wasn't super keen on the idea
Oh, really?
at the beginning.
Yeah.
I say that now, but he's the best dad and
Yeah.
obviously wanted the kids as soon as we
Mhm.
had them. Our
Mhm.
firstborn is named after him. He's the fourth. So,
Mhm.
but it was always something that we knew once we got married, we're like, this
Yeah.
is the path we want to take.
Yeah.
So we knew that was something we were going to go.
And then 5 years later, you get married, you start to try and have kids, you get
Mhm.
diagnosed with PCOS. Was that something that you had previously had any idea what that was, or like, was that a surprise to you? What did that like diagnosis
Yeah.
look like, and how did that shift things for you?
I think it was definitely a surprise for me. I know a lot of women can relate that when you're an athlete in high school, um, a lot of women aren't regular with their cycles. So, and that's totally normal if you're an athlete.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's normal, but back then it was just something that your doctor said, you know,
Yeah.
oh, you're just athletic, you're just skinny, you know, it shouldn't be an issue. But knowing those things now, I probably would have gotten diagnosed a lot sooner if they
Yeah.
would have actually, you know, looked into it
Mhm.
versus just brushing off the symptoms as, oh,
Yeah.
you're athletic, you're thin, you know.
So
But
many times that was like a common conversation that not necessarily our coaches, but like the women in track and field were talking about was like losing their cycle or all of these things. And it was always pushed off as you're just skinny and you're very active and
Yeah.
you're like pushing yourself to extremes. So that's really tough.
it is.
Finding out, especially as you're trying to become pregnant, learning about that. How is that mental shift for you and like the realization at that moment? Like, did you change a lot about your lifestyle or anything like that when you got that diagnosis?
It was really scary because obviously the first thing that comes into my head is I'm never going to be able to have kids.
Mm,
That was the first thought of mine. So I immediately, when we found out, we started scheduling. I had to have surgery. Surgery is the only way to diagnose endometriosis.
okay.
I went through my husband and I ended up getting married Catholic in the Catholic Church. So we had to go through the Pope Paul Institute for our fertility prior to getting married as
Okay.
part of our marriage requirements to get married in the Catholic Church. So
All right.
by doing that, they did find out that I had, with my irregular cycles, I had the PCOS and the endometriosis.
Mm,
So leading up to that diagnosis, we knew something was wrong. Finding out, you know, with the surgery that it was actually confirmed
wow.
was scary for sure.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those things we talked about. Let's get through step one.
Yeah.
You know, let's see if this process works. If it doesn't work, we'll move on to whether or not we have to adopt. You know,
Yeah.
we needed for us mentally getting through just going one step at a time was
Yeah.
probably the easiest way to do it
Yeah.
rather than just thinking too far ahead in the future.
Mhm.
So, yeah, definitely a scary period of time. But
I'm sure. I'm sure. Um, were there big differences between your first pregnancy and your twins? You said you were high risk with the twins and kind of bedridden. What led to that? Was it just that you had two babies?
I think that's what it was. It's so funny because my son it was the easiest pregnancy. Once I ended up getting pregnant,
Yeah.
it was very easy. I did have a little bit of morning sickness, but I
Mhm.
was able to get around for the most part. The second I got pregnant with my twins, before I even went into the doctor, my morning sickness was awful.
Yeah.
From the get-go, I walked in and she knew I was pregnant based on the blood test, but looked at the numbers, and my husband goes, "I know there's 2 in there." And sure enough, she did the ultrasound and she's like, "This is why you're so sick." And that really stuck. And it's probably because I have twin girls. So they sucked all the life out of me during that time. But it was different with them because halfway through the pregnancy, they did a scan thinking that I might have intrauterine growth restriction
Mm.
syndrome, where one of the babies basically takes all the nutrients from the other baby.
Yeah.
So because of that, I needed to be more highly monitored. I had appointments twice a week
Oh, wow.
at the doctor. They would hook me up to fetal monitors, and I would
Yeah.
have, I know they do it different now, but I used to have Jeopardy clickers is what I call them. So I would click the Jeopardy clicker every
Yeah.
single time one of the baby moved. And of course you had to do it for 2 separate babies. So I had to do that twice a week. And I was on
Wow.
bed rest because they thought that I was going to have them early. And so it was definitely a different experience, and I was not able to be as active as I was with my son.
Was bed rest later into like the 3rd trimester, or kind of throughout most of the pregnancy?
It wasn't until later on, until the 3rd trimester. However, being so sick in the mornings,
Yeah.
having that morning
Yeah.
sickness was still hard to,
Mm.
to move around. I still was in bed a lot or
Yeah.
just lying down because I would feel, nauseous.
My
So-
fiance is pregnant with a little boy, and she has a girl already. And like, she tells me the difference between
Really?
the 2 pregnancies. She was so much more sick with her daughter than with our boy.
Mhm.
And it's, I mean, I wasn't there for that, but it was crazy to hear like how vastly different. And like,
Yeah.
realistically, it's the same thing. Like, it's the same body getting pregnant, but the experience is it's totally different.
Yes.
So that's very interesting. And then after you had your kids, how did your health look after having twins? How did your health look, and like what led to now you work here at Peak City Gym and you also work as a Pilates instructor? Like, what pushed you in that direction?
Well, I would say I was working before having all of the kids. And then after I ended up having the twins, I tried to go back to work. I used to work in HR, and I couldn't do it. I missed them too much. I also couldn't fathom paying for 3 kids in daycare. And so I ended up quitting my job and stayed home with them for the last decade. And I guess I would say the first 5 years, going to the gym was not a priority. I had twins and a boy, so it was not something that could I make time for it? Maybe in the middle of the night. But I mean, my twins one of them liked to sleep in my room, even if she crawled in and got on the floor. So they were very close. We're very tight-knit kids. So it was very hard. I wasn't really prioritizing going to the gym or working out. I was just prioritizing being a mom and surviving the day-to-day chaos.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Me and my fiance talk about like what if we had twins, and like how doing everything twice, just doing everything once is hard enough as a parent.
Yeah.
As anyone who's had toddlers within the near future or recently, it's like it's everything you can do just to stay alive.
Yeah.
And then you add a second one to that and you're doubling it. It's like not just double the work, it almost feels like triple the work.
Yeah.
So,
Not to mention I have no relatives who live within the vicinity. So it's
So you survived.
I survived.
About 5 years
Yes.
in. What pushed you into, that's kind of when you said you got back into going to the gym and fitness. What pushed you towards that after the 5 years?
Well, both of my friends got engaged and decided to get married within 6 weeks of each other.
Oof.
So I was going to be a maid of honor and a bridesmaid, and I needed to get it together. So at that time, I decided that, I need to be healthy and, my kids were getting bigger and
Mhm.
running,
Mhm.
and I need to keep up with them.
Yeah.
So that's when I really decided that I needed a change and to start focusing more on my fitness.
And what did that journey look like? What did getting ready for those 2 weddings look like for you?
I was, like I said, I still was a mom, and I really was in the beginning stages of getting back in the gym. So that wasn't something I put on myself. I hired
Yeah.
somebody else to do
Okay.
it. So I ended up getting, a fitness coach, and they created a 12-week program for me where they,
Mhm.
also worked out my macros so that I knew what to eat at
Yeah.
that time. And that's kind of what kickstarted. And it was really, really helpful having somebody that I could
Yeah.
check in with
Mhm.
weekly, who held me accountable for those things as well.
How was that as an experience of actually getting back in the gym? It had been a long time since you like worked out before that. How did that transpire? Like, were the workouts easy? How'd those feel?
They were It's different. I feel like one thing I was scared to initially go into the gym. And then when I saw the exercises, I feel like if there's one thing that I needed to do, it was just get out of my comfort zone and just try new things.
Yeah.
It was scary, but you have to not worry about what other people are
Yeah.
thinking about when
Yeah.
you're in a gym. They're not looking at you, they're not watching you, they don't know what you're doing, they don't know what your personal goals are. So
Yeah.
really, if you just focus on that's what I did, was just focusing on what my goals were. I
Mhm.
needed to look good in 2 bridesmaids dresses. So this is what it is.
What's your motto?
Go hard or go home. Um,
Champion.
uh, no excuses, play like a champion.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the mentality. You got to go into it.
Yes.
All right. I totally get being scared going into the gym. There have definitely been gym environments where I walk into, even though I've been in gym environments for 10 years now, 9 years. Like if it's a really hardcore gym, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get that, but it's always reminding yourself that no one's looking at you.
Yeah.
They're too involved with themselves to care what you're doing. Okay. And what did the nutrition look like? So you got macros. Did you get like a meal plan or just get macros and it was like whatever fit within those macros? How did you track?
The coach that I had hired gave me the general macros, a breakdown. And then she also gave me a nutrition plan as to what kind of meals I could eat. It wasn't necessarily like the exact meals.
Yeah.
And then she also helped me if I would have a lot of trouble like volume eating, because when you're in the gym, you need to, be able to sustain and fuel your body properly.
Yeah.
So part of that was eating a decent amount too if I'm upping my cardio and my weights, and that was difficult, but it was nice to be able to, contact her, and she would just give me, use the cauliflower rice or sweet potatoes, just
Yeah.
easy things to bump up my, my caloric intake, but also things to avoid, like
So your
sweets.
issue at the time was eating enough calories within healthy foods or just, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What were some of your takeaways to get more calories in? Like, how did you achieve a higher healthy calorie intake?
I would eat higher volume foods like the sweet potatoes, and any potatoes are a filling food in general.
Yeah.
The cauliflower rice, you'd be surprised at how much cauliflower rice you can eat within one sitting.
Mhm.
And then also just yogurt, eating a lot of fruit too.
Yeah.
Fruit fills you up more than you think, and there's really not a lot in it. It's just water. So just eating a lot of fresh fruits and veggies. I don't want to say extreme, but I definitely cut out most ultra processed foods
Yeah.
and tried to stick to whole foods and stuff.
Looking back at that time period, would there be any, and now having more information and being a little bit more educated, would you change anything that you did back then? Or would you keep it all about the same?
I think I would keep it about the same. I think it was a fun learning experience. It was
Yeah.
really fun. I did before and after pictures at the beginning and the end just to see what my progress was. And I do definitely suggest that if you're starting a fitness journey, taking before and after photos so you can see, if it really, what kind of impact it did make. But I'm glad that I went the route that I did because I feel like I learned a lot.
It can be so mentally challenging to take before photos.
Yeah.
But it can also be so incredibly rewarding to then go look back at how far you've come, because you may not be able to tell the change because you see yourself almost every day, and the changes are small day to day, but over the course of 2-3 months, it can be massive.
It makes a huge difference.
So having those photos, I think, is really, really helpful, and it tells you more of a story than just body weight.
Yeah.
Body weight can kind of be 1 or 2 pounds gain in a day. That doesn't mean you're going to look like a totally different person. Has your personal journey changed how you approach talking to people now about their fitness journeys?
I think so, because realistically, you never know what someone is going through,
Mm-hmm.
at home or physically, they could have some kind of illness or mentally or anything. So I feel like giving everybody grace,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of grace. And also it's all of our first time here on earth. So we're all learning and we're all
Yeah.
going to make mistakes and do new things. So
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's important that you embrace, what's coming and you
Yeah.
just are open to learning.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. Have you ever coached women specifically or new moms specifically on their fitness journeys? I know it's relatively a new industry for you, and you're kind of just getting back into the workforce. But have you ever worked or talked to other moms who struggle with a lot of the things that you've gone through in your personal life or anything?
I think I feel like I've more here because
Yeah.
obviously a lot of our members, have kids and stuff like that, but also my friends
Yeah.
too who are going through the same journey.
Mhm.
I had got married and had kids before my friends did.
Yeah.
So now they are just a couple of my friends have just had babies and they are going to be getting to that point. And so it's, you know, I would hope that I would be someone that people can come to for advice because I have gone through, stuff
One or
like
two
that. So
things.
one or two things, you know, um, and hopefully come out on the other side of it. But yeah,
Yeah. After being out of the workforce for 10 years, what led you to getting back into it? Now your kids are obviously in school, they're a little bit older, more self-sufficient, but like why get back into the workforce?
I think I needed to do something for me
Yeah.
too. And I mean, my kids do need me now. They still need me. They're always going to need me, but they're needing me a little bit less.
Yeah.
And eventually, I mean, after yesterday, and I have 2 fifth graders and an 8th grader now. So they're not going to be at home forever. So I need to, you know, venture out a little bit more
Yeah. Is
of
that
the
a
mom role.
challenging transition from the mom role that you've held for 10 years?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
very, very different. I'm still managing everybody's day to day, but
Mhm.
I'm also taking a little bit more time to focus on me, which is different.
Mhm.
But it's, yeah, been fun.
What have you put more emphasis on now that you have had the time beyond just the workforce? Have you put more emphasis in your fitness or in your health or your food?
Absolutely. I do feel like that since I don't necessarily have the years of training experience, that I've
Mhm.
tried to make up for that with my personal experience in the gym and my training over the
Yeah.
last, I guess, year. I've, gotten my personal training, nutrition coach, cycle, Pilates, mat Pilates. So I've done a lot of focusing
Yeah.
on like education and just learning what I can when I go to the gym.
That's awesome. That's something I always remind, because I've been training for 10 years, training people for 10 years, working out for 15. That's one of the main things that I tell new trainers or new coaches that want to get into it is like, what has your personal experience been? That's way more important than what schooling you've had.
Yeah.
I struggled so much when I first started my career because I hadn't been through anything.
Mhm.
I was an 18-year-old kid that just liked working out. And so I got
Yeah.
into it. And like I couldn't relate to my clients. I couldn't communicate with them because they all had problems and struggles that I'd never experienced. And I had no idea how to help them. So having gone through a lot of those things, I think that puts you in a good place to actually help those people. And then you can add the education of the movements and the exercise and all of those things on top of it.
Yeah.
I think you're in a really good place to help a lot of people. So you said that you did mat Pilates and Pilates. You work here, Peak City Gym. You're a mom still, a wife. How do you fit all of that in? How do you fit your own fitness in? What does that look like for you? Because you're managing everybody plus yourself.
Yes. Well, you've seen my little blue book. It is. I'm very old school. I have an old planner where I keep all of my things in and I write everything down.
Mm,
I should probably use a computer or more up-to-date technology, but
mm.
that's kind of how I run my life is through that little book. I pretty much have a set schedule, which is nice. I don't know how I do it. Caffeine. And I do, however, get 8 hours of sleep though a night.
Yeah.
I feel like that is important, even if I go to bed at 8:30.
Do you have any time to decompress, or is it just go, 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 bedtime, wake up, go, go, go?
Most of the time, if it's during the week, it's go, go, go.
Yeah.
And then I can rest on the weekends.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
I think that's fair. I mean, having 3 kids
Yeah.
is
They all have activities too.
Yeah.
So,
chauffeur, chaperone,
yeah.
all sorts of stuff.
I don't want them. I mean, they need to be bored because it's good for kids to be bored. But at the same time, I want to keep them out of trouble. So if it's taking them to basketball or the pool or
Yeah.
tutoring, they still have things that they need to do. And
How do you kind of instill boredom or make sure that your kids are being bored? And like, what do you do when they are bored?
I take away their electronics.
Okay.
And then I tell them all the cool things we used to do in the 90s when we were bored. No, but I really do try to get them to go outside.
Yeah.
I try to keep my kids active too.
Mhm.
Being here in the summer there's no excuse to not be outside.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's too hot, but you can go in the shade or we can go to the pool or we've got a sprinkler or water balloons. They can find something that they can do. But I'm big on my kids staying active too.
So boredom's not necessarily sitting in their room staring at a wall, but like not having an organized something at that time.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
That's where they're bored.
And how do you, with all these moving parts, how do you maintain the healthy other than keeping them active, like a healthy nutrition plan, healthy food for your family?
I keep it simple.
Okay.
So I usually stick to basic meals, or throughout the week, we choose nights. So we'll have taco nights on Tuesday, or even if we don't do tacos, it'll be Mexican night. So whether we'll do nachos, we did nachos last week, or I do a lot of deconstructed meals because my kids like a lot of different things.
Okay.
So if we do bowls, I can have rice and everybody can add their beans or their meat or whatever toppings that they like. So I'm not making a completely different meal for everybody. And then those things are really easy to save leftover.
Yeah.
I've also been ordering a lot of the 2-1-2 meals,
Okay.
sticking those in the fridge because I have a teenage boy and
Yeah.
he eats too. So it's nice to just grab one of those and go,
Okay.
whenever.
When you say tacos, nachos, those are not foods that most people would associate with being healthy foods. Is that just one meal throughout a week of healthy meals, or do you do something specifically to make it healthier, more nutritious for them?
I just do something different to make it nutritious. So I'll always have, if we do tacos, we'll have rice and black beans, and then we'll have a meat. The only thing that we'll have is, I guess, not nutritious. We'll just sub Greek yogurt or we'll sub sour cream and have Greek yogurt instead.
Yeah.
I usually get like low-fat cheese, or if I'm eating it, I won't add the cheese to mine. They can have cheese,
Yeah.
and we'll have fresh avocados, fresh salsa. So I just try to make the healthiest version
Okay.
of that taco night,
Yeah.
and then they can have the cheese or, the things that the Doritos on the side, if that's what they want.
Yeah,
But
put the Doritos inside it, or
Dorito taco shells.
yeah, exactly. You
Yeah.
make the taco shells out of Doritos.
Yes.
And then as we're starting to finish up here, tell me a little bit about you just finished getting certified in Pilates. We have your your Pilates workshop coming up next week that is already packed. What got you into Pilates and what led you down that path? Why is it interesting to you?
From doing gymnastics and cheerleading, I feel like Pilates was something that I could gravitate towards because it does focus a lot on flexibility and mobility, and those
Mm,
are two things that I feel like I am pretty skilled with, being in gymnastics and stuff. So that's kind of why I went that route. My friend
mm,
and I had done a few Pilates classes in
mm.
Raleigh, and I always found it interesting and fun. And so when I had the opportunity to go through the training myself, I thought it would be something interesting and fun to learn. When I do train myself, I like to cross train. So doing different types of workouts has always been something that's been super interesting to me.
Okay. So is that how you keep yourself into fitness, is just doing a variety of different style of training, Pilates?
Yeah,
Um,
Pilates, cycling. I don't run often, but my husband and I will run on the Tobacco Trail every so often because it's
okay.
beautiful. And I just think that doing a different variety of things,
Yeah.
Pilates,
Yeah.
yoga, cycling, all those things are just so you don't get bored because you can get bored really easily doing this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And it's just like finding the things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Like whatever that is, it doesn't have to be strength training, but it should probably involve some form of resistance training. But anything that you enjoy that keeps you coming back is going to be better than not doing anything. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I appreciate your time. I'm stoked that your pop up Pilates class is already full. Hopefully, people will show up. If that's something that's super interesting to people, we'll definitely keep bringing it back, and you'll be very busy doing all the Pilates here. But make sure you guys check out that Pilates. We've got a lot more stuff coming from Jessica in the near future. So make sure you stay tuned, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.